We go.
Hi, Meg.
Welcome to Amazing Authors. You are my special guest today, and I've been telling everyone before I jumped on for this one that you are the amazing author of All's Fair and Other Californian Stories. And
thank you, Meg.
It's really cool because I was reading, and they're short stories, so it's pretty wonderful. You get to read it as you go. It's not really one full thing, but the idea behind it really does flow so well together, as California is the backdrop. But I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to focus all my attention on magnificent you, like I said, in all your magnificence today. We are episode number 24 of Amazing Authors. I'm excited to have you join us today and everyone else to talk about her book, All's Fair and Other Californian Stories. This is an empty room just waiting for the story to happen, and you are the author, and today our author is Linda. So welcome. We get to create magic together. I love that. I love being inspired by other creatives. It's one of my favorite things. Mm-hmm. I tell people all the time that actually writing the stuff is really hard because I prefer to be working in collaboration with others. So this is kind of my chance to do that. And
you do it so well, Meg. And you've done it for so many. Thank you.
Without you. So let's turn the spotlight back on you. Reality is, without you, this is nothing. No amazing authors would just me. Although I think I could talk to walls if I wanted to, but that is not necessarily fun for
No, not as fun.
So let's tell everyone a little bit about you and bring you into this place to have this wonderful conversation around your book. It is time to celebrate you and your important work, and it is an award-winning title as well. So a little bit about you as an intro. This is actually kind of fun because I was like, oh my God, there's so much I could ask her. She's a practicing psychotherapist in New York. She received her MA in creative writing and literature from the University of Houston and has been writing fiction for many years. Her stories have appeared in literary journal and magazines. Her interest in California, her native state, and the people who attracts are subjects of her debut collection of short stories. And once again, everybody, this is the book I'm talking about today, All's Fair and Other Californian Stories. So I'll turn it back to you. How are you this morning?
Fine. We had a little storm here. I now live in New York, even though I was raised in California. So we had a little snowstorm, but now it's blue skies, a little wind, but got through it.
As down here in Miami, we had a little chill in the air and we're all complaining. Nothing like you, right? Oh my gosh. I want to say hello to Suzanne, Lee, our other amazing as well. Yep. James is on.
Our other sister authors,
which we love so much. I want to say you are another one of my amazing authors, and I have been longing to have this conversation with you.
No, we've been talking about it, right? I know.
Now, and I always say timing is always perfect, even though sometimes I'd like to push the envelope a little bit further than I'm ready for. But I think this is the perfect time to have this because it's interesting. You do live in New York, and you wrote this wonderful book, short stories about California, and the stories. I read the one just before we got on here again, just as a reminder of the one with Russell and his brother, and Carl, the brother-in-law, Carl. And it's so interesting because you really do get into the humanity behind the characters. And what they say on the back of the book is in fact true. You're remarkably attentive to the writing and the subtle storyteller whose understanding of her characters allows her to honor their complexity in a few deft and graceful strokes, which is really, it really doesn't hit you over the head. It's very subtle, and it's just like I would imagine a psychotherapist would come to the page.
Oh, that's really so interesting. I know, when I decided to become a psychotherapist, I didn't realize at the time how closely related writing and psychotherapy are, because it's really listening for the character, and you're listening to a developing human narrative. And I'm always fascinated by human narrative. So I realized why I was attracted to that, because I started out as a writer, and I was teaching I was teaching essay writing and literature to poor freshmen, in college. I had to suffer through that class. It was a mandatory class. But I taught it for years. And then at some point I needed to go to a more steady career path. path. I needed to make sure that I was earning a more regular income. I was going through a divorce at the time and decided, okay, I'm either going to have to go tenure and live wherever they put me or start something new. So I went back and got my degree. And it wasn't until later when I started getting back to my writing that I realized how similar the two professions are, And now more that I've had more time to write now, I just really, really see the commonalities, the listening for that one little key that's going to open up a character is similar to therapeutic process, right? So, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna step onto that point and add to it because I think it's really kind of important. Even as we humans try to compartmentalize many things in our life, it's really, there's those interfoldings of connections throughout. And I think that when we try to do it, everything is interlinked. So there really is no part. It's all connected. Yeah. And I think that and we all try to say, oh, this part of my life, but everything kind of folds into everything else. So there's really no bifurcations. It all runs together. And that's kind of really interesting. We're talking short stories, right? And the short stories, they all connect. And you wouldn't imagine with the backdrop of California. So it's as if the whole microcosm of the world is happening and all these people are having lives, but they're all taking place in the same location. And I found that very fascinating.
Yeah. When I pulled it together, I was thinking, California is another character in the book.
It is.
I mean, California is a character in it. It's always there. And I think California it's mythic in a way, right? Everybody headed west to find either gold or fame or some change or break with tradition. It's the farthest west in our country, right? You can go. And I think there's always been the myth of California.
True.
And so all of my characters living there, are going through their own, it's not the Hollywood type character, but it's the regular people who go there, whether it's the Mexican immigrant looking for a better life or the older couple moving to Palm Desert because the husband has a degenerative disease and they need to live in a better climate. There's always some reason people are going there. If they're not from there, I'm sort of the native. That's the odd. I came to New York and people always ask me, why did you do the reverse commute?
Well, that is it's very, but back to you, I think this is a great, perfect segue to actually read a summary of your collections, because I think it'll tie into the whole question thereafter, the why. And if there's a New York collection coming to the fore, because God knows that is certainly a character unto itself as well. But the synopsis that you gave me: in this debut collection of ritually evocative stories, writer and psychotherapist Linda Feyder portrays a diverse group of protagonists seeking fulfillment and connection in sunny California. She sketches her characters of different ages, genders, and classes with pitch-perfect honesty as they reassess their identities or confront the exact moment when they face the fragility of life or of themselves. That's a Kirkus review, now writing a beautifully rendered collection from a writer to watch. And that's a beautiful pull quote as well for you. Tell me, so why California then? Why California and not start with New York? I'm curious.
Yeah. Why California? I mean, I grew up there. So I spent half of my life there. And I think the place that you grow up in always holds some sort of relevance, nostalgia, something about it is in your blood. And I feel that way about California. I go back at least once a year and I'm always feeling the familiarity of the smells and the vegetation and the people. There's a type of person that goes to California. They're often seekers. There's all different types, and the people always really interest me, right? All the diversity of people.
Well, would you label yourself a seeker?
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course, because a lot of people don't see themselves. They see themselves as just getting throughers, or but reality, you take a step back and then really your life. And I'm sure you've done this with many people as a psychotherapist, the thing that's calling to you becomes more clear. So and I know that you published these in different journals before. I read the beginning. This is something that's been compiled subsequent. But tell me a little bit about the journey from the beginning as to how you got to where you are now. Now you're a published author in a book form. And what's next after that?
Yeah, so it's funny. I wrote those stories over many years, and they were published in things, but I never thought about bringing them together in a collection until COVID happened.
Oh, really?
Isn't that strange? But it was really around that COVID time where I had some creative time on my hands, which was kind of nice for everybody, right? Everything slowed down. I was busy with work. I was doing it remotely, but it was still a time when I had a little more time than usual to explore that. And I started looking at all of them, taking them out of the box and looking at them, and realized, wow, they all have California. I don't know why that didn't dawn on me before. It was almost subconscious.
Yeah.
But I just started forming them and shaping them into something that seemed like a collection with California as its main character in a way. Mm-hmm.
Well, it really is. They talk about place, right? I had taken a class on the use of place in writing and how important it is to bring the reader into the world that you are placing your characters as well. Yeah. And you did such a great job. And also, like you said, it's not the one-off of the celebrity or this or that. It's the real everyday people, and the imposter syndrome, the comparing their insides to other people's outsides, thinking they're perfect, and you're the failure of life. And then the reality hits in that you have an importance. You're special. I was just listening to Billy Porter sing Lizzo's song, If Anyone Told You Today, if no one's told you that you're special. But that's really what it does come down to, is the beauty of you putting the characters in a place that you can actually understand that unique, special quality of the different individuals. Mm-hmm. Something that you were going for. I mean, it's the cross-examiner in me that intimates what the person's thinking as well. But I did feel that when I was reading the book. So
I'm glad. Yeah. No, I think that's very true. I think California, it's a place where people seek something, whether it's a new spirituality or going back into history, riches, fame, new identities. California, the two coasts in a way are very similar that way. People go to chase their dreams.
God, I love that. The whole idea.
Right?
So let's switch the topic onto you, because this is about the author or the book. And I do think when people fall in love with the author, which I know everyone is going to fall in love with you when they actually read it, but also getting to know you, I think is really a huge part of the stories you tell. When did it come to your mind that this is after COVID, you put them all together, and then what was your next step? Because your book has been out a while now, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that even after this, people are starting to discover it now more and more, as we all are outside the COVID internal bubble, to be out in the world again.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about a book, right? It lives on. It's like you have your pub date and all the hoopla around that, and then that first year, and then I'm like now in my second year, and I'm thinking, oh, I guess my job's done. But it's not really, right? It builds, and that's fun. And that's fun about it. But I wasn't, this is my first book, so I didn't really know that's how it goes, So it's been a real learning process for me. But it is fun that it keeps living on, and we can still have conversations in different ways. And that's really interesting to me.
I heard the word over and over, evergreen. Your book is evergreen. And I at first didn't know exactly what are you talking about. But evergreen just keeps growing and growing and blossoming and coming into its fullness. And
I'm sure you've seen that with different books that you've done, that, they come up in different ways and there's different conversation around it.
Well,
mm-hmm.
The intention is always there. The author's intention and how it plays out into the real world.
Yeah.
It is a magic all unto its own. So what was your intention when you actually published this book?
Well, I mean, it was really to finally pull them together and showcase them as a group of stories in California, and the diversity of the population. And also, I think I was thinking a lot about my work as a therapist and how much human narrative is a part of storytelling.
Amazing.
You know?
Yeah.
And I listen to people's stories every day. And so then to sit down and write my own and have them out there. At first I was worried, oh, I can't be a therapist and a writer. Like, oh, you know, what will, maybe my clients will think I'm writing about them, and that would be terrible. You know, all those thoughts, all those self-doubts, the obstacles that get in your way. And then I just released it. And I found that those clients that do know I'm a writer, I've had a few say to me, that actually was the thing that brought me to you. Because I felt that, I know that as a writer, a fiction writer, you know, you have a different insight into personhood that I was interested in. So I was surprised by that, because I was a little afraid. I even thought of writing under a pseudonym.
Oh, wow.
All these nutty things, these ideas I had at the time, but it was fine.
Well, you know, it's funny because even on like a stage like the Oscars, and we just come off of the Sunday of the Oscars, even I think acceptance, they said, oh, he's like dealing with imposter syndrome.
I heard that. I watched it too, and I heard the same thing, and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, I know if there's one thing I've learned in my profession, it's that the people that you think have it so together and have nothing to, you know, they have some of the same insecurities and all of it that everybody struggles with. It's just humanity. I don't know if you saw Jonah Hill's new documentary. I just loved it. I loved it. But I loved it for that. I love that he was a celebrity who showed his ickies, right? And did it to help others. And you know, it was great.
Well, I think going back to intentionality of the whole thing, I really do believe that one of the things that you did with this book is to help others, and with the stories that you told, because it does go, like you said in your synopsis, you know, challenges or questions to your identity. Who am I? Why am I here? You know, with all of my mistakes and some of the good stuff too. And, you know, I show up, and that questioning process really does unfold in front of each of us if we actually take that invitation, which I think books do. They invite us to really truly do a self-examination. And I think written by a psychotherapist, it's even better, because we have that able hand guiding us along very subtly, as they did say in your review, without hitting us in the side of the face, which I think maybe my style is a little bit more right of the side of your face. But it makes me appreciate others who come to the table with their talents and skills and their style. So what would you say has been the thing you loved most about this adventure so far? And what kind of, you know, stylistic approach have you taken to it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I love reading style and all kinds of books. You know, I try to read a lot. And I've read a lot of fiction, obviously. So, you know, because I love fiction. But yeah, style is always so interesting to read, right? From Faulkner to minimalists to, you know, you're just entranced by it. So I try to develop my own style. I think that comes out of a person's self. You know, I think when you write, it's just how you communicate. And so it's very individual and unique. So I was trying that comes across whether you try really hard or not. I mean, it's usually very natural to your process. And, you know, I think of writing fiction a little different than therapy, because in therapy, I'm trying to help them come to some change, some insights. But with fiction, I'm not really pushing characters to do that too much. They're sort of leading me once you get the voice.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. And so it's really just trying to be as true to that moment in the character's life as I can. I'm not trying to force a solution or make them come to it. I'm just sort of allowing it to unfold. I know.
I want to say hi to Carmen. Hi, welcome to joining us. This is Feyder. She's the author of the wonderful book All's Fair and Other Californian Stories. And anyone who else has joined us, and I don't know who your names are, welcome. This is really wonderful to have you all here. one of the things that came to mind as you're speaking, and I think that this comes with the maturation process, although, you know, it's kind of challenging at the same time, you're trying to accept it, is the authentic voice that you're kind of allowing finally after such a long, you know, growing process, continuing process. But, you know, that authentic voice that when you start to speak your truth, speak through your words, speak in your language, you know, whatever of that language of love that comes to the table, it's kind of a wonderful invitation. I always like think of it as a business card that we get to know you better as long as you're the real you that comes out. And I love the adventure. And I love, you know, the question around, you know, what makes you wake up every morning and take that next step toward the adventure that you're creating for yourself.
Yeah, well, creating is a leap of faith. I mean, I was thinking of your book and the leap of faith you took from leaving such a, you know, a bona fide career as a lawyer, and just that leap, you know, it's, I think in some ways it's a leap of creativity. It's allowing the world to be open to creativity in your life.
So cool.
Right? And that's scary sometimes because we're often really told to take the, you know, the narrow path, take that one that's from A to B, you'll be successful. So anytime I think somebody works in a creative field, they're very courageous, right? I think it's a courageous act.
I think it's a necessary act.
Yeah.
But I do believe it's courageous as well.
Yeah.
Because coraje means the heart coming from, and if you're allowing your heart, you know, to follow your heart, follow your bliss, follow that life that has been calling to you, then what you create can't be anything but beautiful, you know, as long as those
and putting it out there in the world is brave, right? Oh. You have this, you know, it's your insides, your passion, and you suddenly then you've got to release it and let it go out there. So it's kind of like raising children. I've compared it to that sometimes, right? It's like you have this thing that you bore, and then you've got to send it out into the world, and you've got to watch it get, you know, rejected sometimes and all those things.
You know, it's like kind of trying to be mama bear protecting, but at the same time, they all have to discover themselves in their own way, and whatever, you know, whatever happens, that whole faith process is just like, I'm not
right.
What did I think? What was I thinking? What was I thinking? There's no manual to that.
No.
Even with recruiting, there's no manual to that. People like tell you what to do, but you're going to have to figure everything out on your own. So back to you. I really would love to know, what is the biggest, like maybe 3 takeaways that you've had for people who are about to launch, thinking about writing a book?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess thinking about writing a book, I mean, for me, I have to really need to tell this story, right? There's a real need to tell it. If I don't have that initial passion, this has to be written, right? I need to write about that. Then it's hard to keep that going. I'm working on a novel now, and if I didn't still have that need for this to be told, I think it would be hard to stick with it. It's a really long process, right? So what's that?
Working on now?
Oh yeah, I'm working on a novel now about a female architect, and I'm just really going into her life. Yeah, but I'm passionate about it. So it's like, I have to write this. So I have to get back to it. But I think that's the first step, that kernel of passion for this has to be, I need to write this, that there. And then launching a book, wow, that's been an educational process, right? I didn't know anything about it. And wow, you know, it's been a great, I'm kind of looking forward to the next one, God willing, that, you know, that I'll know so much more. But just getting familiar with that process is so helpful. I think having a group of friends, like all of us, right, that really just can talk about things, like all these, you know, first-time writers or ones that have just come before you, pick their brains, ask questions, get familiar with the terminology. Also, build relationships with independent bookstores. That's something I'm really valuing now.
So tell me a little bit about that. So that's something you're I didn't jump into that so much. So tell me about what you valued about that.
I think particularly for literary kinds of fiction, I think that is a particular niche of independent bookstores, right? Readers of that kind of fiction often go there. And I realize that. Like short stories it's a niche market in a way. It's sort of, there's not everybody reads short stories, right? So, and I know that independents often champion short stories and novels and, so I knew that was an arena. It's a smaller arena, but it's an important one. And so I think nurturing your relationships with your independent bookstore in town, getting to know the players there, what kinds of books, what kinds of readers they have is an important.
Do you have a favorite?
Do I have a favorite?
Indeed.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Canio's Books in Sag Harbor. It's an old bookstore that's been there forever. And I just love the two women that run that. And I love their collections of things. I'd say that's top on my list. I had one that did my launch here in Port Washington, the Dolphin Bookshop, but they recently closed, like so many independents. They were hard hit by COVID, and some didn't make it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a shame. I'm glad you were able to have your launch.
I know. I think I may have been there, close to last launch. So I was really pleased that they would do it. And that was during a time when a lot of the stores, because of COVID, weren't really doing it. So they were very flexible with me. We found an old barn nearby.
Oh, cool.
And they were willing to bring the books and bring the cash register and set up shop there. And we did it in this beautiful fall outdoor place. So that was creative. And I don't know that anything but an independent bookstore would have done that.
So do you have any coming up on the horizon, with presenting this book again?
Yeah,
that you're going to be
I'm doing something with an author on this Sunday night.
Okay.
I'm blanking right now. Blue Hill Light Press in California is going to be doing a reading with both of us. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. With Laura Hall. Wrote a book, and I love that book. So we're going to be doing a reading together at Blue Light Press.
Is it in person or is it streaming?
This will be streaming. Yeah. This will be a streaming.
To find you there.
Yeah, I'll be there. Blue Light Press.
Yeah. Blue BLUE Light HT Press RESS on Instagram or on Facebook.
Yeah, you could follow them there, and I'm sure they'll have the link.
Perfect.
There. Yeah. They're a small press in California.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that brings back the whole Californian theme. I love it.
Yes.
Let me ask you one question. What has surprised you the most about bringing your book out, publishing it, and bringing it into the world?
Oh, what has surprised me? I think it's what story touches individual readers. Sometimes I'm surprised by which story really connected with them, and when I learn why, it's really fun to learn why.
Oh, that's great. And then you love the fact that when you have something that really strikes a chord in another person, especially your readers, it starts conversations. And I love the conversations that begin, because then it can be a collaboration of the creative, whatever comes from there. So that's quite amazing. I want to congratulate you for writing your short stories.
Thank you, Meg.
I do believe it's a never giving up on your dreams kind of thing. And certainly back to the Oscars, as most of them, like what I've said, they are not past their prime. They're still in it to win. Keep going after your dreams and seeing them unfold. And then definitely sharing that insight, inspiration with so many people. I would love to ask you, what has been the thing that you want people to take away as far as remember you by? Like, what is that? When they think of you, Linda, what do you want them to think about?
Gosh, it's a hard one. The first thing that pops into my mind is my love of human narrative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what is it about the human narrative that is so intriguing to you?
It's so rich. We all have stories to tell. We all have incredible pasts, presents. It's also rich, right? It's never ending. You know, I think that's what makes us unique.
When I when I was a kid, we always said that the dining room table, the dinner table, is where we've continued to share our stories. That we come together and we learn the art of storytelling initially, and then when you're introduced to a great book, that's another layer on top of that, where we come together, where we share in that joy of storytelling, that human rich narrative that you're talking about. So I am very much going to encourage all of you to go grab her book, All's Fair and Stories. I'm sorry, All's Fair and Other Californian Stories. Where can people find this book, Linda?
Oh, so I'd love to recommend bookshop.org, because that supports your local independence. You can buy online there, and it's also on Amazon.
Wonderful. And also, I would encourage those who have in fact read the book to leave a wonderful review, because that is lifeblood of authors.
Yes,
writing
absolutely. Appreciate that, Meg.
Oh, absolutely. Because I know that, you know, it takes minutes, like seconds even. If you can go on, just tell them it's a wonderful book. And this is clearly a wonderful book that I'm so happy to share with you. But more so, this is an amazing author that I'm so excited to share her story with you and all that comes from her creative ilk. So I know you all are going to go follow her. She's on Instagram. Tell us where to find you on Instagram.
Oh, it's at linda.feyder.
There you go.
Pretty easy.
Feyder.
Right.
Go there, follow her, start conversation with her, you know, tell her like what really inspired you from this interview. There's so much here. It's very short, but it's definitely sweet. So I want to thank you once again, Linda, for joining us.
Thank you, Meg. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're one. And it definitely was worth the wait, for sure. You are delightful. Your stories are delightful. And I can't wait to see this novel that's coming out soon.
Oh, me too. I'm slogging away.
Yeah. But again, until I get you back here again, certainly I'll definitely have you back so we can talk about this. But I would like to say thank you. And I want to wish you most success in the world as you keep telling your beautiful stories of human narrative. I'll let you have the final word today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed being here. And, you know, I love the short stories. So thanks for highlighting it.
Oh, absolutely. So keep writing, everybody. Thank you so much, Linda. And thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, Meg.